Hitting the trifecta 3 days in a row, nights in a row, depending where you're at. With what's left of my voice after a long Sunday out. It's the first one in a while. I will say, even if you're not a football fan, if you're bored on a Sunday and you want to get top tier people watching, just go to a sports bar. Just find the most secluded seat you can, which usually they're actually pretty easy to come by on Sundays, ironically, because that's usually the one table with either no TVs above it or a TV that's just hard to look at from that table, and that's it. So you'll get the table that no one else wants, and ironically, more often than not always, but more often than not, that's the same table that gets the best service because it's away from the chaos. So it's where the servers would rather be than in the middle of just the insanity. So that's an idea if you're looking for ideas for something to do. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it, though, on primetime games. You say, well, what's the difference? And I would say, from experience, that you get a half and half crowd, which is never good for anyone. No one enjoys that. And by half and half crowd, I mean half the people are there for nothing but the game. The game and having a beer in front of them. That's all they care about. They don't really want to talk that much. They don't, they're not there to mess around. They're there for the game. And the other half of the crowd didn't know there was a game. You think, well, how could this be? And it does not matter how football frenzied a particular market might be. I like to think that Central Alabama is the epicenter of football during football season, especially during the years when Alabama was a shoo-in for the national championship for a while there, and they had just come off an Auburn title in 2010, so the late 2010 or early 2010s to mid 2010s. You would go out for a game on Monday night, and I get professional football is not as big down there, though usually there's people who follow it just to watch, Auburn or Alabama products in the pros to see how they do. You would go to a game, and I won't pick on that market specifically because I've seen it elsewhere, but it's probably the best example. You would go for a game on a Monday night, and it would be week 12. And you say, well, what's the significance? How about the fact that there has been a Monday night football game on every Monday night for the last 3 months straight by week 12? That being the significance. And half the crowd, again, is there for nothing but the game. The other half is mystified as to what is happening on that TV. And it makes for a pretty awkward mix between the two. So, not primetime games, but Sundays if you're bored and you're looking for something, I would say that's not a bad idea, especially when you don't really have any emotional investment. It's pretty entertaining. Though speaking of half and half, or 1 foot in, 1 foot out, if I learned anything this week, it was to stick to your guns or stick to the devil you know in terms of metaphors, because a poorly executed metaphor could mean the total opposite of what you were trying to say. Case in point, last week, won't say where, won't say who, but I walked into a grocery store and I noticed out of the corner of my eye one of the employees was picking out melons for this woman, and he was excited to tell her as he handed it over, I think I've got the hang of this. I think I'm doing pretty well lately. I mean, I feel like, and this part is a direct quote, I feel like I've been batting 100 or whatever. And the baseball guy in me winced and wanted to run over and grab that melon from that woman's hand and set it down and say, "Do not touch this melon." But I let nature run its course, and I peeked at her, and she just kind of absent-mindedly smiled back, like I have no idea what that meant, but okay. And though 100 sounds like a nice round number, and in most cases it's a good thing, got 100% on a test, ran for 100 yards, I get 100 on this, I've got 100 of these. More often than not, it sounds great. It's a nice round number. It usually, if it's percent per 100, that's another plus. However, the reference he was trying to make was to baseball, where batting 100 means you better start looking for another career. Those not familiar, as clearly someone isn't, I won't single him out. Batting 1,000 was what he meant to say, because batting averages in baseball are on a scale of 0 to 1,000, 0 being you've either never taken an at-bat or you've never gotten a hit, 1,000 being you've never gotten out, which when you're picking melons and you're trying to say to someone, "I pick melons perfectly," you say, "Yeah, I'm batting 1,000 at picking these." But when you say, well, I'm batting 100 at picking these or whatever, in layman's terms, you're saying if you pick 10 melons, one of them's going to be good. Hence why I was nervous for that woman, but I think she's all right. I haven't seen anything on the local news about woman dying of food poisoning from a melon from some random grocery store, of course. In other news, I am pretty excited to give Highest to Lowest a try tonight, the new Spike Lee movie on Apple. Believe my buddy Nick Turturro's in that one, so I'm pretty excited to see a little screen time from him, and it looks like a great one. Any Denzel movie, I'm in. You just say the name and I'm ready. I really haven't looked up or looked into it too deeply what it's about, so I'm excited to see how this one is. I'm gonna try and get to a couple other shows throughout the week. I'm gonna see what I have time for, but the new Mark Ruffalo show Task also looks really good. It's ironic because not huge on the crime drama thriller genre, just because it feels like it gets beaten into the ground maybe a little too much. Like CBS and Paramount, I feel like that's all they have 90% of the time. So I'm typically not huge on it, but something about the trailer for the show just grabbed me, and I want to at least give it a shot. So I'm going to try and fit that in this week. Though I'm definitely watching Highest to Lowest tonight, and I think that one should be great. On a random note, Apple Music gets mixed reviews from people, though I would say I actually enjoy it. I enjoy Spotify too, but for different reasons for each. I think Spotify's mixing is better. The way of when it curates a station for you, it has a better time picking out different stuff. Or sometimes Apple Music, it feels like, can fall in love with a handful of songs and never recommend anything else, at least until you just throw 15 brand new songs at it that you might or might not even listen to. You just force it to kind of reconfigure its algorithm, but it is more convenient. It just is. When you have an iPhone, it's just the way it's set up and how, you 2 words and you can get it to play whatever you want. So I enjoy each for different reasons. That being said, as someone who will listen to just about anything, though countries where I draw the line, and it sounds cliche, and I've tried, and it just, I don't know, just does not do much for me. But everything else pretty much is on the table, especially this time of year. Not out of the question that I could listen to Etta James and Slayer 10 minutes apart and enjoy both of them equally, which just doesn't sound possible, but I can pretty much listen to anything that way. That being said, for whatever reason, Apple Music has decided that it is just going to force feed me early 2010s, late 2000s indie rock on a loop. And not necessarily opposed to it, though it just kind of opened a door in my brain that had been shut for years, and sort of thinking back when some of those songs would have been out, what I was doing, where I was, why I was there, and it just kind of made me laugh that, you know, while I'm listening to some of these, I'm scrolling through social media, and I thought, well, what would this have been like? This app had been like in, say, March of 2011, and I just remember late 2010 to about 2014 being the era of the hipster. Everybody was just all in. Even if you weren't a hipster, you fully embraced that whole subculture, even if you think you didn't, because you look back, and of course, some people, now the thing on like Instagram is to delete all but 6 pictures for whatever reason. Like, why take them and why post them if you're just going to delete them and just, file it down to 6? Like, okay, I don't know, I guess it's a vanity thing that I'm not fully in tune with. But to those who still left up their lives and their posts and pictures from circa 2011, 12, and even 13, a lot of food pictures. And not all of them were even all that impressive, but you just had to find a reason to post the picture of the food. And if the food wasn't impressive, you had to at least make the presentation look impressive. And I remember how vehemently people complained about that. And I think about it now, and some of the just garbage that's on social media, I think I would love nothing more than a day of scrolling through numerous social media apps, and it is just sunsets, it's just cloudscapes, it's just pictures of food, and it's pictures of just random nothingness. And that was like a badge of honor at that point in time too. If it wasn't a food picture, if it was going to be a picture of anything else, make sure it's just random nothingness that means nothing to anyone. For whatever reason, that was like hitting the bullseye with social media posts and Facebook. A lot of song lyrics. That was not the best. I didn't love that. A lot of inside jokes, which I always found funny, because even some of them that clearly were meant for 2 people out of 2,000, every now and then they would transcend being an inside joke, or it was like, this is actually just as funny with zero context whatsoever. But now it's, AI slop that your aunt definitely believes wholeheartedly, no matter what it says or what it is. She believes it. and just a lot of opinions nobody asked for. And I always think, like, we really thought we had it bad with the food pictures. And I, for one, never complained because I always found it interesting. And maybe it was just because I've always made sure to have friends everywhere that the pictures would look different, the presentation would look different, the food choices would be totally different. So to me, it was like something just totally different from one picture to the next. So I never actually minded that. Though a lot of people, that was the bane of their existence for about 5 years. And I never leveled with that, but I guess the same way there's an ass for every seat, there's something to annoy everyone. But I sure would take even just one day a year. Maybe that can be the next stupid national blah 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 holiday. Because of course now there's one for every day of the year. As a matter of fact, I pulled up a list for September 7th. Essentially it's the 6th. There was the 6th when I started this. Now it's the 7th. And wow, what a list. September 7th, National Beer Lovers Day. Okay, that's fine. National Salami Day. Okay. National Grateful Patient Day, which apparently wasn't a thing until 2017. Don't know who or where that came from, but all right. And here's where it gets really off the walls. National Acorn Squash Day. National Grandma Moses Day. Folk artist, all right. National Neither Rain Nor Snow Day. That one probably could have come up with a more direct name. It apparently honors the dedication of postal workers. Though this time of year I would have just assumed it's a safe bet that it's not going to rain or snow in most places. Could have just gone with National Postal Workers Day, but I guess not. National New Hampshire Day. I guess on this date, they were the 9th state to join the U.S. And it's also Google Commemoration Day. Chance to commemorate Google. Okay. But again, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 national or nationally recognized holidays. Not that that's overkill or anything. But why not? Once a year. Nothing on social media. Just maybe the second Tuesday in May. How about that? A really mundane date with just not much going on. Like the second or third Tuesday in May or February. They're even better, February. The third Tuesday in February. And everybody's just wondering, like, why is this month a thing? Hit everybody with a nice little break in the monotony with a national hipster behavior on social media day. Just a nice palate cleanser for everybody involved. There's a proposition. If you could make one thing, whether it be an entity or an ideology, a national holiday, what would you pick?